My apologies for not having the AEW weekly recap out on Thursday around 1 o'clock like I'd like to normally have it out. But here we are about a day late, but let's jump right into it. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got Collision. It started out with Samoa Joe defeating Nick Wayne. The Patriarchy, led by Christian Cage, attempted to surround Joe before the match began, but Hook and Katsuyori Shibata came out to even the odds. The match did a really good job of making Nick Wayne look good, but in the end, Samoa Joe took this kid to the woodshed, in my humble opinion here. The Patriarchy tried to interfere one final time, but Shibata and Hook intercepted as Samoa Joe picked up the win after he hit a muscle buster on Nick Wayne. So yeah, good little showcase here for Nick Wayne, but at the end of the day, too much to overcome when it comes to Samoa Joe here, no doubt about it. So it's good to see Samoa Joe back in the ring after all that time off. We had the Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada defeating Ring of Honor TV Champion Commander. Fun match between these two guys that ended with Okada winning via the Rainmaker. After the match, Okada adhered to the code of honor customary in Ring of Honor for a second at least. Then he blindsided Commander in the back before walking to the backstage area. So yes, this definitely highlighting Okada's heel tendencies here, no doubt about it, being a total D-bag. But yeah, following their bad blood from last week's 12-man tag, we had Powerhouse Hobbs and Big Bill in the back were brawling. Big Bill threw a brick at Hobbs, but thankfully he missed. Hobbs ripped a fence gate right off his hinges before security showed up to restore some order. So good backstage brawl between the two guys that ended up getting followed up on a little bit later in the show. Big Boom AJ and Big Justice interview in the back with Adam Cole and the Undisputed Kingdom. When they walked up, they all said boom together. I know these two are huge on social media, but I really just don't get Big Boom AJ and Big Justice. I'm just not, I guess, part of that in crowd. But I love Adam Cole here, so this was just a moment for them to all get together and say boom. So I guess it did its thing, no doubt about it. We had an Undisputed Kingdom 6-man tag with Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Adam Cole. They defeated Daniel Garcia, Daddy Magic, Matt Menard, and the returning Cool Hand Angelo Parker. Good to see Angelo Parker back after he and Ruby Soho had their baby. I was in attendance for the Rampage live in the Indianapolis area when Angelo Parker and Ruby Soho announced their pregnancy before they took time off. I thought it was a special moment considering Ruby Soho is from a local town named Lafayette, Indiana. So I thought that was really cool to kind of have that announcement in a local market close to where she lives. So I thought that was really cool. But good to see Angelo Parker back here, no doubt about it. This match was mostly about building the Undisputed Kingdom as a viable trios tag team. Hopefully that means we'll be getting the trios tag team championships back to prominence. Unlike the last match, there was a true show of respect between both teams via a handshake. Afterwards, Daniel Garcia, Daddy Magic, and Cool Hand Ange set their sights on Shane Taylor Promotions at ringside. It actually even sets up a triple threat match coming up on, or a three-way match as AEW calls them. They don't call them triple threat, on Collision this following week, which I'll preview here in just a little bit. We got a Max Caster promo where he was playing the victim card following the breakup of the Acclaimed. He said he was a survivor, and he issued an open challenge to anyone to a series to see who the survivors in AEW are. One, I guess you could call this a Survivor Series? Bit too much, a little on the nose. Never mind. Anyway, moving on. We had a Top Flight interview where Darius Martin kind of laid into Dante Martin a little bit about how he brought Leo Rush into the group, and Darius Martin definitely wanted to get his hands on Leo Rush. We had Mariah May and Toni Storm go face-to-face. The AEW Women's World Champion came out first and wanted to get this over with. Toni Storm then came out with loads of positivity and happy to be in the ring. Mariah May quickly ran down Storm, and Toni appeared heartbroken, but she then told Mariah that she was her biggest fan. Toni Storm then hugged Mariah May. Then Mariah May slapped the taste out of Toni Storm's mouth. Mariah May then attacked Toni Storm with the championship. Mariah May left the ring after security broke it up. And apparently Mariah May must have knocked something loose in Toni Storm, because Toni Storm then proceeded to announce that what you've been witnessing over the last few weeks and months was a performance of a lifetime by Timeless Toni Storm, clearly using this performance to get back to the world champion. As Mariah May looked on shocked, Toni Storm said she was going to rip her tits off, and then she took a bow. Timeless Toni Storm will face Mariah May in a revenge bout from AEW All In at AEW Grand Slam Australia. Now, this was one of the better segments that AEW Creative has produced with their storytelling, in my opinion. It just kind of came full circle with everything that's going on with Mariah May and Toni Storm, from Mariah May being Toni Storm's protege a little bit. And of course, with their match and everything, it led up to All In with the turn by Mariah May. And then, Toni Storm acting like she had amnesia or didn't remember that she was there or whatever it might have been. But now we know that it was a full-blown, Oscar award-winning performance by Timeless Toni Storm here. So I thought it was very well done, top to bottom, and it's been going on for a long time. If AEW can continue to book things just like this, I think AEW will be good. But unfortunately, not all their feuds have been booked this well. I think they need to continue to book them like this and continue to do it exactly like they did here. And if they did, all their other storytelling will be just as intriguing as this. Hopefully, they'll be able to kind of translate this to other different feuds instead of just this one. But this is a great start, and I'd love to see more of this from AEW. Brody King and Buddy Matthews are out next, accompanied to the ring by Julia Hart. They are now called the Hounds of Hell after the departure of Malachi Black from AEW, and the Hounds of Hell defeat the Gates of Agony here. So yeah, we talked about this on the Dragon's Den podcast a few weeks ago about how Malachi Black was going to be leaving AEW most likely here before too much longer. So the House of Black is no longer relevant, so they needed a name change, and we talked about how Brody King had trademarked the Hounds of Hell, and apparently we were absolutely accurate on that reporting. So yes, great to see here, and I think it makes a lot of sense since Brody King does the the barking thing. So I think it would be great for this as well. So can't wait to see where this crew goes. But yes, let's hope they will book these three here to high levels and continue to put them in great matches and feuds, because all three of these here, the two guys and the lady here, Julia Hart, have great talent and they deserve to be at the top of the card. Taya Valkyrie and Deonna Purrazzo insults Harley Cameron and Big Boom AJ and Big Justice during an interview in the back on their way out to a Fatal 4-Ways women's match. So, again, not a big fan of the Big Justice and Big Boom AJ thing here. But like I said, I know they're popular on the social media accounts and things like that, so I understand why they're here. And Harley Cameron is one of my favorites. I really love what they're doing with her. She's just uber talented, from a ventriloquist to a singer to a wrestler, all the above. I really like watching her do her thing here on AEW Collision. And apparently by the end of the show, they're setting up some stuff going forward with Collision this upcoming week. We had a fatal 4-way women's match to determine the number one contendership for Mercedes Moné's TBS championship between Deonna Purrazzo, Serena Deeb, Yuka Sakazaki, and Queen Aminata here. Harley Cameron made an appearance in this match to prevent the interference of Taya Valkyrie, attempting to help Deonna Purrazzo steal the match. The help from Harley Cameron allowed Yuka Sakazaki to pick up the victory, who will then face Mercedes Moné on Dynamite for the TBS championship, something I wasn't really thrilled with, but we'll get into that by the end of this show. Kazuchika Okada was in the back laughing at the Hounds of Hell. He told Buddy Matthews that he barks like a bitch. Buddy challenged him to a match for the Continental title. Okada said no, and then Buddy said, well, I guess you're the bitch then. As the Hounds walked off, Okada said, I know, bitch. So I got a big laugh out of that. I know Okada's kind of been taking some criticism from some people about not having that aura he had in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but I really like the whole middle finger thing and saying the word bitch. I don't know why. It cracks me up when Okada does it, so I think he's got great delivery. And I'm starting to think that some of his wrestling aura is starting to come back in ring here in AEW, so I can't wait to see potentially this match here between Okada and Buddy Matthews. It could be a lot of fun. Big Bill called out Hobbs in the ring. Security tried to keep Hobbs at bay, but Hobbs fought his way to Big Bill. Bill hit Hobbs with a backpack full of bricks, a knee brace, and handcuffs. He tried choking Hobbs out with the chain from the handcuffs. Hobbs came up bleeding. Big Bill attacked with a steel chair to the back multiple times. The brawl ended with a massive belly-to-belly suplex from the stage to the floor through tables. Both guys landed hard on the concrete, especially Big Bill. The table broke his fall. It appears only concrete was beneath them, and Hobbs landed on top of Big Bill on top of it. So, ouch. This looks like it sucked, but a good brawl between these two guys could be a big meat matchup, if you want to call it that, when these two end up colliding in the ring. So I can't wait to see where this goes. We had a video package with the Callis family. Don Callis said he's moving slowly after what Kenny Omega did to him. He barely touched Don, so I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, Don said this is not the same Kenny Omega, and his alliance with Will Ospreay cannot be allowed to happen. Brian Cage said there's 5 of us and only 2 of them. Then Don Callis said, who said there's only 5? Lance Archer and Brian Cage then looked at the plate set at the table at the forefront of the camera here, where they were sitting, and insinuating that another member exists in the Don Callis family. And for those who've watched AEW for any amount of time, knows that Trent Beretta was once a member of the Don Callis family before he's had to take some time off, apparently. We're about to see his return. That's what it sounds like we might be getting here. So yeah, if that's the case, Trent Beretta was definitely on the rise when he had to leave the company for whatever the reason might have been. I don't remember remember exactly what the reason was, but either way, be great to see him back with the Callis family, and I think that could continue to work. And I think the Callis family is one of the better heel factions in AEW at this point. Following up from the video package, AEW showcased Konosuke Takeshita as he retained his international championship by defeating Katsuyori Shibata in a fun match. Heck of a main event, too, via a Blue Thunder Bomb. So, yes, great to see these two guys in the ring, too, and great to just see Shibata wrestling at all after the way he had to deal with the injury that he had to sustain a while back. But, yeah, so it's definitely good to see these two go at it. But, yeah, definitely good to highlight Konosuke Takeshita here and defending his international championship. So a solid main event, solid collision top to bottom, in my opinion. One of the better AEW collisions that they've had over the last few months. Unfortunately, it didn't have the greatest of ratings, but it was also on Max, and the ratings don't take into account the Max numbers either. So hopefully AEW can continue to build upon the success of Collision and going into Dynamite, as well as the following week coming up here for too long. Speaking of AEW Dynamite, the show kicked off this week with Will Ospreay versus Brian Cage. Before the match got underway, Don Callis directed everyone's attention to the big screen, where video of Kenny Omega was hurt backstage, and that was shown on the screen. The insinuation being that the Don Callis family had beaten him up backstage. There was a spot in this match where Brian Cage caught Will Ospreay in the vertical suplex position and then proceeded to walk halfway around the outside of the ring with him hoisted vertically up into the air. Crazy strength and balance from Brian Cage here, and of course from Will Ospreay with the balance aspect of it, no doubt about it. This was an impressive victory by Will Ospreay here, as he somehow got the massive Brian Cage in a Styles clash. After the match, Archer and Cage attacked Will Ospreay, and Kenny Omega was able to gather himself enough to make the save with a steel chair, but the numbers game was just too much as Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita came out to help. So 4-on-2 is the story here, and eventually maybe a 5-on-2 matchup, as we talked about on the Collision portion of this show. All of this is building towards the huge tag match between these four guys at Grand Slam Australia. This is going to be God-tier level of awesome when it comes to in-ring performance, in my opinion. And after that, I expect Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay to kind of move on to other stories here. But this should be a great highlight for Konosuke Takeshita and the young Kyle Fletcher as well. So I can't wait to see this. This could very well be your main event of AEW Grand Slam coming up here on February 15th. After that, we had Adam Hangman Page was looking for Swerve Strickland in the back, but Hangman Page came face-to-face with MJF instead. Page walked off as MJF cut a promo on Jeff Jarrett, facing half-man, half-horse Claudio Castagnoli, as MJF put it. He said it'd be the last Outlaw's last ride. Are they potentially teasing an alliance with MJF and Adam Hangman Page, or potentially a feud between the two? I can't quite tell right now, but either one would be an interesting thing, especially if they were to pair up and team together. So we'll see how that ends up going. But I thought this was an interesting little meetup here in the back, no doubt about it. We had a Powerhouse Hobbs promo. He said he wasn't cleared to travel to Dynamite due to, I think he had a gash where he cut himself open during that brawl on Collision. He said that he told Big Bill that he was going to hell when he suplexed him off the stage on Collision, but hell will only be the beginning once he's cleared to come back. So this shouldn't be too much longer. I'd say Hobbs will probably be back next week, no doubt about it. So can't wait to see where these two go coming up in the future. Claudio Castagnoli versus Jeff Jarrett. If Jeff Jarrett wins, he gets an AEW World Title match against Jon Moxley. Wheeler Yuta came out and distracted Jeff Jarrett during this match. Yuta threw a chair in the ring, and with the ref distracted, Claudio attempted to hit Jarrett with the steel chair. Jarrett ducked and got the upper hand, but then Jon Moxley rolled in and hit the paradigm shift on Jeff Jarrett. Claudio Castagnoli could have pinned Jarrett right then and there, but he looked over his shoulder at Moxley, and he then hit his own finisher on Jeff Jarrett and pinned him to end Jarrett's title hopes here. But Moxley didn't look too pleased with Claudio for doing that, and they walked away, leaving Jarrett in the ring. This is an early tease into a potential end to this storyline with the Death Riders. I'm all here for it, especially if they're teasing potential a little bit of dissension amongst the ranks with Claudio and Moxley. Just kind of Moxley laid him out, and he could have just beat him there, and Claudio was like, no, I want to do one up you and do this one thing myself. Moxley didn't look too thrilled. So if that's the case, I totally think that would be a great idea. The Death Rider storyline, in my opinion, is just not hitting on all cylinders. Although this this week I thought was a little more intriguing than weeks past, mostly due to this, tease of the dissension potentially rearing its ugly head here moving forward. So we'll have to wait and see if that ends up blossoming into something, or if it's just kind of something to kind of, it was just like Claudio's like, no, I want to do my own thing here real quick, and then they're all cool. So we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. MJF came out smiling as Jarrett was licking his wounds, and MJF began speaking and then clobbered Jarrett upside the head with the dynamite diamond ring. MJF then said he truly respects his elders, and that is why he's not going to say, "I told you so." Surely this eventually leads to a match with MJF versus Jeff Jarrett, in my opinion, but I'm glad it appears that Jeff Jarrett's pursuit of the AEW World Championship is over, because unfortunately, Jeff Jarrett, I think, is like, 57 years old or something like that, so I don't think it makes a lot of sense to put the title on Jeff Jarrett. So I totally understand them not going that route. So apparently if this was all to lead up to a match with MJF, okay, cool. But at the same time, what is that really doing for MJF moving forward? I don't know. But anyway, we'll see how this goes. But I'm just glad that they decided to kind of go, we're not going to actually, pursue this world championship run for Jeff Jarrett here, which I heard the original idea was never to do that. So we'll just have to wait and see what they do with MJF and Jeff Jarrett going forward. But could be fun, I suppose, but I just don't understand the point necessarily long term. But good to see Jarrett getting one little final run here when he, is, still able to perform in the ring. So we had Ricochet. He had an interview with Renee Paquette before his match with AR Fox. Swerve Strickland hasn't been seen all day on the show, but Renee announced that if Swerve interferes in the next match, he'd forfeit his match against Ricochet next week on Dynamite. But after the match, which Ricochet defeated AR Fox, by the way, after the match, Ricochet grabbed a pair of scissors to attack AR Fox, but Swerve Strickland showed up and dragged Ricochet out of the ring by his foot. He beat on Ricochet and threw him back into the ring and was going to hit Ricochet with his top rope stomp, but Ricochet took AR Fox hostage with the scissors and used him as a human shield as Swerve backed down from the stomp. Ricochet weaseled his way out of this night, but next week there will be nowhere to run or hide when Swerve Strickland faces Ricochet one-on-one. AEW has been pushing this match hard for weeks, so hopefully it absolutely delivers. I don't know if they got something big planned or they just really think these two guys could do a great job in a main event spot, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yes, this could be a bloodbath, so to speak, a little bit. These two got a bit of a feud going on that cannot be satiated without the use of violence, no doubt about it, so let's wait and see how this goes. We had a New York Minute segment with the Learning Tree, where Chris Jericho said that he told Big Bill to get the job done against Powerhouse Hobbs, and he didn't. So Bill has more to learn. Jericho said he and the Bad Apple Brian Keith will show how it's done when they face the Outrunners on Collision this upcoming weekend. Again, this is another subtle tease of a potential split or a breakup in a group here. Just like with the Claudio tease earlier, I sensed a potential Big Bill split could be starting to tease itself here with him kind of, maybe not, being fully okay with some of the, correction of Jericho here, trying to teach the learning, or the big redwood here in the ways of the Learning Tree. So I don't know if this is going to end up going to a breakup or not, but I definitely kind of caught the little subtleties there. So AEW likes to do little subtleties when it comes to when they start to tell different stories and breakups and things like that. So the little nuance I really appreciate in AEW. So we'll see how this goes, but yeah, we'll see how the matchup with the Learning Tree as well goes with the Outrunners on Collision, no doubt about it. So we'll see what happens there. Jay White versus Wheeler Yuta. Jay White defeated Yuta with a Blade Runner, overcoming a vicious assault from Yuta on Jay's knee during the match. Following the match, Jay White hit Yuta with a second Blade Runner. He was going to hit a third, but Moxley showed up, and Jay White was attacked from behind by Claudio. During the beatdown, Rated FTR showed up, and the Death Riders scattered like roaches when the lights came on. Dax Harwood grabbed the mic and said, "It's different when it's a fair fight, isn't it?" He was upset the Death Riders tried to end the Rock and Roll Express last week. He challenged the Death Riders to face FTR in a Mid-South street fight on Collision this upcoming Saturday. So this could be a lot of fun. It looks like Collision's card for the upcoming episode that will go head-to-head with the Royal Rumble, unfortunately, is actually shaking up to be a pretty good show. So I hope everybody will still give it a look, even though the big pay-per-view in WWE is also going on. Mariah May did an interview with Renee Paquette. She said it's great to be in Huntsville, Alabama, but she suggested we change the name of the town to begin with the letter C. So you could kind of make up that what you will here. Clever, a little bit. But anyway, Mariah May said you can play any Toni Storm you'd like, but the ending will remain the same. Could be a good match at Grand Slam Australia. No doubt about it between these two talented young ladies here, no doubt. We got a promo package for the Guns. Austin and Colton Gunn are returning to AEW soon. So we've got a little bit of a package here to hype it up. Looks like Jay White's going to get a couple of his running buddies coming back here in the Gun Club. So can't wait to see these two guys back on our screens, no doubt about it. We got a video package or a recap promo from the Hurt Syndicate winning the AEW Tag Team Championships. They said they'll accept any challenge, anytime, anywhere. So we'll have to wait and see where that goes too. But good to see them kind of doing some more recaps here for sure. Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie say they're coming to Collision this week to go after Harley Cameron for what she did, costing Deonna Purrazzo her chance at the TBS Championship last week. I feel it's a good decision to interlace the storylines on Collision and Dynamite because it makes both shows more important and relevant, especially since a lot of the Collision shows will be taped the same night as Dynamite moving forward or the night after for the foreseeable future. So that makes a lot of sense, especially when you got all the roster in one building over the same night or 2 nights span, no doubt about it. And to expand upon that just a little bit, this Dynamite show, I did notice that they're definitely using a lot more video packages, recaps, and promo segments than normal. And while I saw some criticisms online, this is actually a good thing, in my opinion. In order to draw in more fans, you must explain to them what's going on from both shows. And sometimes AEW has not done a great job of doing that consistently. Some critics were saying it's too much like WWE. Well, like it or not, WWE is the standard of the wrestling business. An AEW fan or not, you have to admit WWE has been a far better product as of late. And perhaps it would do AEW good to try some things WWE is doing. I'm not saying copy WWE. Nobody wants that. Because AEW still needs to stay AEW, an alternative to WWE. But throwing in certain aesthetics and formats can only enhance the current product, and adding video packages, promos, and recaps don't make them WWE. It's just good booking and good pro wrestling. So it's just good to kind of remind fans of what's going on other shows, especially some fans only watch Dynamite and AEW. The AEW is trying to get them to watch Collision and things like that, but sometimes people don't have the time, especially on the weekends. So to show them what's going on Collision will hopefully drive viewers over there as well, and vice versa. As well as if storylines kind of interlace on both shows, it kind of builds the incentive to watch both shows because both shows are relevant and important. So I'd like to see more of that from AEW. I think they're on the right track there. So good to see that on this week's Dynamite and Collision shows, no doubt about it. In the Dynamite main event, TBS champion Mercedes Moné retained her championship by defeating Yuka Sakazaki in the main event. It's a fun women's match, but nothing to really write home about. But this one goes back to the problem Brandon and I talked about on the Dragon's Den podcast in previous recaps. When you set up these title matches for television, 99% of the time you're telegraphing that the champion has zero chance of losing. And I understand WWE does this too, so it's not just an exclusive problem to AEW. Both companies do this. It just makes the match have no stakes. But occasionally you have to have an upset or something to make the fans believe that anything could possibly happen on this television show. And if you don't, it makes the title match just feel like a way to get the champion in a match. But it was nice to see Mercedes doing her thing here, no doubt about it, even though it sounded like, the fans really didn't care about her too much here. Although nothing was set up after the match, she did elevate Yuka Sakazaki by having this match with her. But the lack of anything furthering a story at the end of the match before the show went off the air does kind of make the ending of the show feel a bit flat to me. So as much as, I like the rest of the show, I really did feel like the main event segment didn't quite deliver like they were hoping. I know Tony Khan's obviously wanting to get the women more in the main event status, so putting them on the main event of their, top weekly show, no doubt about it, is a move that he wants to make to kind of further the women's division, no doubt about it. And obviously they view Mercedes Moné as a big marquee, which I understand that because she is, but at the same time, sometimes I just feel like she's kind of a bit flat with fans right now. Some fans are not really, buying her character, or they're just not really caring because it feels like she just does whatever she wants. A lot of people feel like she has creative control over her character, which is the report going around out there. And if that is the case, they're just kind of looking like, well, she's just booking herself to win, so why should we care? At some point, Mercedes Moné is going to have to get beaten here. And I don't know who's going to be the one to do it, but hopefully they'll book that at some point moving forward. But we'll see where it goes. But overall, I think it was a solid week for AEW wrestling. I'm hoping to see AEW to continue to improve, coming off a very good Collision show last week, which was probably better than Dynamite, all things considered, this week, in my humble opinion. On top of the big Swerve Ricochet match we discussed earlier, coming up next week, Collision looks solid again this week as well. Unfortunately, like I said, it will be going head-to-head with the Royal Rumble, but still, the card looks pretty decent. We got a three-way TNT Championship match between Daniel Garcia, Kyle O'Reilly, and Lee Moriarty. I think that'll be a solid match for all those three young talents, no doubt about it. We also got a tag team match with Hook and Samoa Joe versus Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian. We also are going to have the Learning Tree versus the Outrunners, as I discussed earlier on in the show here, as well as we'll be hearing from Timeless Toni Storm. She'll probably let us know a little bit more about what's been going on with her over the last few months and her training in regards to her big performance that she put on. And then, of course, we'll be headlined on Collision this week by the Death Riders, Mox and Wheeler Yuta versus FTR in a Mid-South street fight. Hopefully AEW will have another good solid week of wrestling, and we'll be building up more and more towards AEW Revolution and Grand Slam Australia and things like that. So I hope you guys will check it out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Thanks for watching. Thank you for checking out this video. If you like what you saw here, please consider checking out our live podcast almost every single Friday night here on the channel at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And until our next video, guys, take care, and God bless.